You step out of a crash and your adrenaline is surging. You think, I feel mostly fine. Do I really need to see a doctor? Here's why seeing a doctor in the first 72 hours can save both your health and your case, starting with the medical proof you'll need to get paid. Hi, I'm Max the Axe, the gold standard in personal injury. I've been practicing law in Texas for years, and one of the most common questions that I see from car accident victims is, do I really need to go to the doctor when I feel mostly okay? The short answer is yes, you absolutely should. But let me explain why going to the doctor can help make or break your case, but more importantly, protect your health and your legal rights. Why you should always see a doctor immediately. Adrenaline is a powerful thing. It masks the pain, it keeps you functioning, and it makes you feel completely fine, even when you're not. I've had dozens of clients who walk away from a crash and they feel mostly fine, only to wake up the next day with severe pain in their neck or their back. Soft tissue injuries, which are extremely common in car accident cases, don't manifest pain until 24 to 48 hours after the accident. Concussions can have delayed symptoms, and internal injuries don't always have obvious signs right away. By waiting to see a doctor, you're not just risking your health, you're potentially compromising any future legal claim that you may have. In Texas, we have what is called the eggshell plaintiff rule, which is established in cases such as Austin versus Kroger, Texas. This means that if you have a pre-existing condition that makes you more susceptible or vulnerable to further injury, the at-fault party is still responsible for all of the injuries caused by the crash. But here's the catch. You still need medical documentation to prove what injuries were caused by the crash versus what existed before. And without immediate medical attention, that becomes almost impossible to establish. The insurance company game. Insurance companies and their lawyers know this game all too well. They don't want you to go to the doctor so that they can argue, well, you must not be that hurt because you didn't go to the doctor immediately. Or, well, if you are hurt, then it's probably not from this crash. It must be from something else. Texas follows a modified comparative negligence rule under Civil Practice and Remedies Code 33.003. This means that if you're found to be more than 50% at fault for causing your own injuries, including waiting to go and see the doctor, you might not recover anything at all for your case. Insurance companies will use your delay in seeking treatment as evidence that you contributed to the severity of your own injuries. I had a case recently where a client waited a week to go to the doctor after a car accident. She felt fine immediately and she was hoping that the symptoms would go away on its own. But ultimately, the insurance company was arguing that she actually wasn't in pain at all. And if she was in pain, then it must have been caused by something else. We ended up winning the case, but it was a lot harder than it needed to be. What counts as seeing a doctor? Now, when I say that you need to see a doctor, I don't mean that you need to go immediately to the emergency room via an ambulance, but you do need to see a qualified medical provider. That can be your primary care physician, a chiropractor or physical therapist, an urgent care clinic, or an emergency room if you feel you have concerning symptoms. The key is establishing an initial medical record that documents your injuries as well as the accident to establish your baseline condition. Even if the doctor says follow up as needed, the documentation of your symptoms is important. It shows that you acted reasonably and you sought the appropriate care because you felt something wasn't right. If you do go to the emergency room, please make sure that you mention all of the symptoms that you're having. If you have a lot of back pain and a little bit of neck pain, make sure that the doctor knows every part of your body that's causing you pain. Emergency room physicians are often focused on what's causing you the most pain, so it's important to emphasize to them every part of the body, minor or major, that could be injured. Those notes from that initial emergency room visit can become extremely crucial to your case. The 72-hour rule. At our law firm, I always tell clients about the 72-hour rule. If you haven't seen a doctor within 72 hours of the accident, you need to see one as soon as possible, even if you feel mostly fine. This isn't a hard legal deadline, but it's a practical one. After 72 hours, insurance companies start to get skeptical about the connection between the accident and your injuries. Texas courts have consistently held in cases like Gunn versus McCoy that there must be a reasonable connection between the accident and the injuries. The longer you wait to seek medical treatment, the harder it is to make that connection, and the more likely the insurance company will be to argue that something else is what probably caused the injury. I remember a case where a client took about 5 days to go to the doctor, And during those 5 days, she tried to live a normal life. She went to the gym, she went to work, she tried to live like everything was okay, even though she started to feel pain. Once she finally did get to the doctor to talk about her injuries, the insurance company argued that it must have been something at work or something at the gym that actually caused all of her injuries, nothing to do with the crash. We still ended up winning the case, but it certainly makes it a lot harder to argue to the jury when you have that large gap in treatment. What to tell your doctor? When you do ultimately get to the doctor, be honest about the symptoms that you have. Talk to them about the accident and what happened. Were you rear-ended? Did a car crash in front of you or from the side? How did your body move inside the car that could have caused your injuries? Tell everything to your doctor and make sure that you note every single part of your body that feels discomfort, pain, tightness, or just where something feels off. Don't just focus on the obvious areas. If your neck hurts and your back hurts, mention both. If your hand or knee or shoulder hurts, mention every part of the body that is causing you pain or discomfort. In this next part, I really need to emphasize strongly. If you have headaches, dizziness, nausea, or confusion, you need to tell your doctor about that as soon as possible. These are signs of a potential traumatic brain injury, and they need to be taken extremely seriously and treated immediately. If you're having trouble sleeping, if you're feeling more anxiety, any potential symptom, not just physical pain, be sure to mention that to the doctor. The doctor's notes will be scrutinized by the insurance company, so it's important to make sure that every part of your body that is injured is included in those medical records. You want those medical notes to accurately reflect your condition at the time immediately after the crash. Common delayed injuries to watch out for. Let me walk you through some of the most common injuries and symptoms that don't always show up immediately after impact. Whiplash is probably the most common delayed onset injury. Your neck might feel fine immediately after the impact, but over the coming hours or days, you might start to experience pain, stiffness, headache, or even radiating pain that travels from your neck down your arm. Concussions or mild traumatic brain injury are also a major concern. You don't have to hit your head on something to suffer a traumatic brain injury or a concussion. The sudden acceleration or deceleration caused by the crash can force your brain to hit the inside of your skull and cause a traumatic brain injury. The early symptoms of a traumatic brain injury might seem subtle. They could be nausea, dizziness, confusion, or just feeling a little bit off. These symptoms often worsen over time. Back injuries, especially your lower back, are extremely common in car accidents. The force of the impact can cause little micro tears in the muscles or ligaments inside your back, and it might also damage the structure of the spine itself. You've probably heard of disc herniations, which are a common injury that can be caused from the impact. You might not feel this immediately after the crash, but over the next day or two, you could experience muscle spasms, pain in the lower back, or limited mobility. Also, be careful if you experience shooting pain down one of your legs. That could be a sign of a serious spinal injury. Even psychological injuries like PTSD, anxiety, or depression can be caused by car crashes. If you find yourself experiencing anxiety while driving, sleeplessness at night, or flashbacks to the crash, these are serious medical concerns that need to be documented and presented to the insurance company. The legal timeline in Texas. Understanding Texas law for personal injury cases are crucial for understanding your legal rights. Under Civil Practice and Remedies Code 16.003, you have 2 years from the date of the crash to file a lawsuit. This might seem like plenty of time at first, but building a strong case takes months of investigation, medical treatment, and documentation. More important for our discussion today, Article 21.55 requires prompt notice to your insurance company about a potential claim. While the word prompt is not specifically defined, any unreasonable delays in reporting to the insurance company can jeopardize your claim. I've seen plenty of cases where clients will wait weeks to go see the doctor, hoping that the pain will go away on its own. By the time they realize that they should have gone to the doctor earlier, the strength of their case had significantly diminished. The insurance company had legitimate arguments that question whether the accident is what caused the injuries that he sought treatment for several weeks later. Building your medical record. Think of your medical records as building blocks for your case. Each doctor's visit, each test, each recommendation adds another layer of proof that connects the accident to your injuries. The stronger your medical foundation, the stronger your personal injury case. This is why I always recommend that the clients follow through with the doctor's recommendations. If you're in pain and the doctor recommends physical therapy, it's important that you go through with the physical therapy. If the doctor recommends an MRI, it's important that you get the MRI. If they recommend seeing a specialist, such as a pain management doctor, it's important to go and see that specialist. Insurance companies are always looking for gaps in treatment to make arguments that you're not really hurt, or maybe it was something else that caused your injuries. They will always take the opportunity to make the argument that if you were really hurt, you would have gone to the doctor. In Texas, in the doctrine established by the case of Haygood versus Diaz-Capedo, the juries do get to consider whether you followed through with the doctor's recommendations when they are deciding damages. If you don't follow through with the recommended treatment, it could affect your recovery significantly. What this means for your case value. Let me be direct about something that affects every personal injury case. Immediate medical treatment and consistent medical treatment affects the value of every single case. Insurance companies use sophisticated software that analyze every gap in treatment, every medical bill, and every medical note. A client who sees the doctor immediately and follows through with all the doctor's recommendations will almost always get a higher settlement than someone with delayed treatment and gaps in treatment. This isn't just about fairness, it's about proving the reality and extent of your serious injuries. I've had plenty of cases where the difference between immediate medical care and delayed medical care means tens of thousands of dollars in settlement value. The injuries may be similar, the crashes may be similar, but ultimately, it's the medical documentation that tells a different story. Your next steps. If you've been in a car accident recently and you're experiencing some amount of pain or discomfort and you haven't been to the doctor yet, stop watching this video and get to the doctor immediately. I'm not trying to scare you, but every hour that you wait affects both your health as well as your legal rights in any personal injury case you may pursue. If it's been more than a few days and you start to experience symptoms from the crash, it's still not too late. See a doctor immediately and be honest about when the symptoms started. A good attorney can still build a strong case, but it becomes more difficult with each passing day. Remember, seeing a doctor is not just about your legal case, it's about your health and your well-being. Some injuries that might seem minor initially can end up being very serious, especially if left untreated. Your health is worth far more than any settlement, so please take care of yourself first. The information that I've shared with you here today about when to see the doctor is just one piece of the puzzle for a legal claim after a car accident. You now understand why immediate medical attention is crucial, why delayed treatment can affect your case, and most importantly, what kind of tactics the insurance companies use to minimize the value of your case. But knowing when to see the doctor is only the first step. What you do in those critical first hours and days after a crash is the difference between a strong case and a weak one. The difference between getting full justice and compensation for your injuries or getting nothing at all. In my next video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do immediately after the crash to preserve the evidence, to protect your health, and to protect your legal rights. This isn't generic advice that you can find anywhere else. This is specific advice that I personally give to my own clients that ends up saving them thousands of dollars and months of headaches dealing with the insurance company. Don't wait until it's too late to learn this information. I'll see you over there.